Well, I'm so glad we're back on Cherish TV talking about a very important topic, racism. So I want to continue on this topic. I think there's a lot that needs to be said and should be said, even things that we've been thinking, even while we're, talking about, this topic. And I want to bring something forward. Just recently, a very prominent pastor in our country, really, you saw all through the presidential race, was really against President Donald Trump, was against his policies. And the next thing you know, we see him sitting in a meeting right next to President Donald Trump. And he actually got a lot of backlash from, he's a prominent black pastor, and so he had a lot of backlash even from his own race. What do we think about that? Like, what is it that really prompted the thousands of comments on his Instagram?
Okay, so if we look at it, I'm gonna be honest, I was nervous about coming here and talking about race, okay? My wife was nervous about me coming here and talking about race because anytime an African-American person stands out and says, yeah, that's not racism, or yeah, that's not right, yeah, that's wrong, they're obviously, called a sellout, called a traitor, called an Uncle Tom. I mean, that's been what's happened in my life. I've seen that.
Yeah.
You go to an all-white church, oh this, oh that. That's not okay, okay? And so John Gray came out against President Trump.
Yeah.
He came out against him. And everything leading up to it, he came out against Donald Trump. All of his posts were against Donald Trump. But out of a matter of respect, because he's now our president, John Gray went and met with Donald Trump, okay? That's a leader of the free world. That's not gonna hurt the black community. That's gonna bring unity. If I have the ability to take a group of people to a new location and I'm sitting next to the most powerful man in the world, I'm gonna take that meeting. We may have different thoughts, we may have different opinions, but truthfully, it's not about him. It's about the community. It's about unity. It's about bringing everybody together. I mean, I think that...
Do we feel like that was the intent, though? I mean, and I know this is purely speculation and opinion, but it's interesting that somebody that spoke very against and now sitting next to, I think if it is for the bringing of unity, absolutely. But I think that backlash wasn't necessarily just from that.
I think it's our obligation as Christians to pray and support for those in the White House. Absolutely. I think even if he doesn't necessarily still at this juncture, even while he's sitting there next to the man, agree with all of Donald Trump's policies, I think it is an obligation as Christ followers to be lifting up those people that are in power in prayer, that they hear from the voice of God.
So why do you feel like, why were you worried that you would be labeled those things if you came here and talked about race? Why did it happen to John Gray? Like, where does that come from?
Well, I think it comes from truthfully, I think it comes from, we don't truly want to see anybody make it. And I think that's all of us in general. We don't like to see somebody that came from where we came from go to the next level.
Wow.
But I think that's everybody, because rather than their success is stopping me, it's not stopping you. That means you have the same ability to do the same things. I think that as an African-American man, I'm going to be honest, I haven't dealt with the same issues as every other African-American man.
Right.
Okay, I went to an all-white high school pretty much, okay? I've got a white wife, white kids, I had a white mom, so I don't truly understand the issue all the way.
Yeah.
Just like I don't understand women's issues. I'm here with the women. I mean, you had to talk about this to get me on here.
I
don't, and so that's what it is.
I gratefully, I can see both sides of the coin.
Okay.
And actually all you have to do is turn it over and see it. I think part of the problem with John Gray going was that you've got this access. What are you going to do with it?
Yeah.
And for all of the injustices and the things that he spoke out on, we were dealing with the reform for the jail system. But I don't think that they really got to get to the meat of the matter. And it appeared that it was more of a photo op for the president to say, I have all these African-American preachers here with me that are on my side. So, but I'm just going by what it looks like.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I think, and that is what it looks like, because I would disagree in saying that's a filter, because when we say, that the president met with just a black, group of pastors. I happen to know that he has actually met with all kinds of, groups,
Yep.
not just.
Well, it
now
was
that photo op
specifically
was
for that particular. That's what I'm
yes,
talking
but
about.
there are
that one
other
in
groups.
particular.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that he doesn't meet with others, but
Yeah.
that particular moment in time. And so for African Americans, it can come across as a sellout because if you were that vocal about it,
Yeah.
man up.
Well, I think it comes out. I think is the word more hypocritical. Is that the word instead of a sellout?
Or am
I'm
I-
sorry, I got to address something. What do you mean, man up?
It would have been like, man up, say what you've been saying. And he came across as being a little more subdued than the man we are used to seeing standing up, making the
Okay, yeah, but
so
I've got
then
a-
the
I've
so
got a
then the
question.
community would say, this is what it looks like based upon us always seeing you this way about it. You were very,
I understand.
and
that.
I respect that he said he was asked to pray for the president, and he did. 2 thumbs up.
Okay. So if I solve a problem, it doesn't matter how I solve the problem. Just because I don't come at you.
Was the problem
you know.
solved though? Not fully. Was it
What was
fully?
that? 6 weeks ago? 8 weeks ago? It's not going to take 8 weeks to undo something that's
Not,
been going
not
on for
saying
40
that it
years.
would, Jeff. Not saying that it
You
would.
know, we know the number of black men incarcerated. We understand that, but like we got to give them time. I feel like we didn't. I feel like we jumped to conclusion before we let them do what they're doing. I read through some of the comments and I was really disheartened. I was like,
Tell us.
Yeah.
that's y'all's pastor.
Yeah.
And sometimes as a leader in any race, you have to make tough decisions. And if them being in that room is what sparks prison reform, is what gets wrongfully accused people out of prison, is what gets violent criminals more sentencing and other less sentencing, whatever has to be done. I feel like John Gray did what was right. I feel like he did what was right.
He was there to support a cause that he actually believed in.
He wasn't there in
And
support
so-
of who
Yeah.
invited him. He was there for the cause, the issue.
In
Yeah.
spite of what he knew
In
might
spite
be
of-
coming
yeah.
towards his way.
In
Yeah.
spite of
Well,
how
his
he
wife
felt.
did warn him.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she did warn him.
Yeah.
Just as your wife warned you
Yeah, my
today.
wife warned me this morning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm the type of person I am. I don't care what you believe. I'm going to love you anyway. That's Chocolavette. That's how I roll. And you and I can still be friends and disagree.
Exactly.
Just some things I disagree on, and I'm going to state what I
Right.
feel about it. And I'm not saying that the correction or readjustment is supposed to happen overnight. But what I am looking for is to see a president that is really going to back it up with action that says, I am for this. So if it's not going to happen, then I don't want to say be hypocritical about it, but don't be hypocritical about
Right.
it.
And and I would say this, especially when it comes to, our president and all the previous, presidents as well. Everyone takes opportunities for photo ops.
Sure, right, yeah.
As well.
Yes,
I know,
yes.
I'm like doing that. Okay, so let's talk about as well. Let's talk about a lot of terminology that we're hearing today. Black Lives Matter and All Lives Matter, and what's some of the theory behind that? So just all the lingo and the language that's out there, and movements that have been rising, in this area.
Well, all lives do matter.
Yes.
Thank you. I agree.
And to African Americans, to the community, when you have had, over the past 2 years, the number of African American men that have been shot and killed by police officers, Black Lives Matter. It's like, okay, we're standing up. We have to say that there is importance and significance to the black race. And although I hate that word black, but again, propaganda, I'm so used to hearing it that it's the first thing that rolls off my mouth. So it just,
Yeah.
But that sounds like to me, honestly, like that sounds like to me superiority of a race. Like why just Black
No.
lives?
When we're
Like how
saying-
did that
when-
become?
That's what I think
when
this
the
is
statement
good.
when the statement Black Lives Matters came about, it wasn't to say that we're superior. We're saying we should be included in all lives matter,
Right.
not that we're
I
disposable.
guess my thing is that statement in and of itself, like Black Lives Matter, you're agreeing with the fact that they don't. In the so for me, I feel like the reverse connotation of it. It's like,
I see,
ooh,
yeah.
it makes it feel icky. Like so, you are saying that you think they don't.
Like it
Well,
reminds
in
you that they were
instances-
once oppressed. that's why it's important to now say that they
And I would
matter.
say that, but I don't think that even that language is helpful to the resolve, because I think to say that there were injustices in our world, in our history and American history,
Yeah.
absolutely, and resolve those things. But I agree. I think to say Black Lives Matter is actually affirming the pain in the history
Yes.
instead of bringing out that every life does matter. And
Right.
let's absolutely acknowledge there's been lots of movement made now, and
Right.
healing that has come to people and to country. Let's look at it in terms of victory. Like, I feel like there's better lingo out there to communicate
bring
that.
more
I would
unity.
That would
agree
bring
with you.
unity.
And maybe we should have said all lives matter.
Yes,
But at
I
the
would have liked
ti-
that.
But at the time,
Yeah.
blacks were being shot and killed. And so someone had the bright idea to say Black Lives Matter. I'm not saying that it was right, wrong, but what I am saying is that right when you feel like we're right on the verge of this racism thing really being diffused,
Yeah.
you have a series of blacks being shot. So then that scab that was healing so nicely has just been ripped off, and it's tender all over again.
But again, I think that's the propaganda of media, because while
Yeah.
Black people were being shot, so were white people.
Yep.
And we have to look at the quantity, of people
Or-
and what was being portrayed to us. So why is it Black on, Black crime? Where, maybe Jeff, you can speak a little bit to that side of things.
Well, the first thing I would say is all lives matter, like Yvette said, okay? And the Black Lives Matter means that we didn't have a voice before, and so we felt that we need
Okay.
to be seen as equal, or
Okay.
or these black killings are not getting the attention they need, or we're not getting the punishments, or we're not getting the answers we would like.
Right.
But once again, I will say that there are white people that get gunned down by the police every day in this country, okay? But the news doesn't bring it to the forefront of they don't bring it to our attention,
Yeah.
okay? Yes, innocent black men are killed. Yes, innocent white men are killed. Innocent people are killed all the time.
Yeah.
Okay? But I think to say Black Lives Matter is actually divisive, and just the name is divisive.
I agree.
And I understand that Black Lives Matter got mad when people started saying all lives matter, but it's not a protest to your protest. It's just us saying, like, everybody matters.
Right. And in everybody, black people are included in everybody.
Yes,
Yes.
everything matters. Okay?
Yeah.
But
I think we get into a bit of trouble when and it's human nature, I think, to bond together around a common enemy.
Right.
It feels like there's
great point.
power in numbers if we all are on the same side and we all have a common enemy. And I think a lot of these movements we've seen recently, hashtag Me Too, and even the kneeling in the NFL, we see people banding together and sort of identifying with a wound and a pain.
Right.
And I think we get into a lot of trouble when
Right.
we associate ourselves with that pain instead of with the solution.
So let's
Yeah.
talk a little bit into that. What does healing look like now? We've kind of referred to it, and there's wounds, there's pains, there's injustices, there's things that have, been said, and ways that we could tweak things and awareness. But what is true healing today in 2018 and moving forward? What does that really look like in order to have, unity amongst all of us?
we've got to be more culturally sensitive.
Agreed.
We've got to stop with the stereotypes that are associated with races. We've got to stop the culturally insensitive things that are said from every platform.
Can we get examples?
I've got a friend, okay, and she made a statement that pretty much my husband thinks he's black, okay? She's a dear friend of mine. My husband thinks he's black. And for a second when she said it, I was like, hold on. So I have to be black to be a gangster? That's perpetuating a stereotype. And no, people may not know her and know she's not a racist, but people take those things and they're like, oh, well, she thinks all black people are gangsters, or she thinks all black people are subpar.
Wow.
And we're not taught to be culturally sensitive, okay? Like we throw around, at the water cooler at work, we throw around racist jokes. There's always a little hint of truth in those racist jokes. And so we've got to be careful with
Yeah.
making blanket statements also.
Yeah.
Yeah.
one white person treating me this way, so all white people are
No,
racist.
that's not true. Right.
We got to
right.
throw that out. We got to
Right.
throw that thinking out. Hey, one black man robbed a liquor store. One black man robbed me at gunpoint. They're all killers, gangsters, drug dealers. We got to throw that thinking
Right.
out.
Yeah.
Because when sin came into the world, it caused division instantly. Okay, with Tower of Babel and everybody got a different skin tone, a different language, there was going to be racism. But it's all about how we deal with it. Black Lives Matter, great idea. Great idea. Great principles, okay? But let's bring everybody into it. Let's open the discussion that, hey, because my perception is real to me. How I see the world is real to me, and your perception is real to you, Yvette.
So then it's a matter of going beyond hearing and really listening.
Yeah.
Because when people start to really listen
Yeah.
and they can be empathetic of another person's experience,
Yeah.
then that softens the person that's been hurt as well as the person who
Yeah.
didn't understand
Right.
prior to that.
And I think it's so true because it's like if I were to say something because one of my best friend is black, and so I don't feel like I have racism in me. I always need to make sure to when if a thought comes in, I need to always make sure my heart is right. But I just
Are you afraid to say something right now because you're white?
Yeah.
no. Well,
that-
you know
'cause
what?
you
It
keep
is-
holding back.
It
What's
is
up?
funny because
Becky with the good
when
hair.
we
Yeah,
were
come on.
chatting, when we were chatting beforehand, I would, and with other people, not just this panel, I was like, I want to say this. Like, yeah, you can't say that, you're white. And I'm like, why can't I say that because I'm white?
Say it.
Say it.
What
Well,
is
I don't
it?
know. You're pressuring me to say something really important. But what I really wanted to say though is, I think it's so important. If I were to say something that's insensitive, do I mean to be insensitive? Absolutely not. But what I would actually love is for you not to get offended at me, and then everyone like grumbles and complains about how I seem racist. To be like, hey, like Becky, just so you know, when you said that, this was so insensitive, and this is the feelings that it sparked. And because I love everyone, be like, I am so sorry. Well, I am so sorry. And having
Yeah.
an honest conversation so I can learn. I want to learn. But
Yeah.
then, can I really quickly though, I hope though, that there'll come a time where there's been enough healing and we've become culturally sensitive where we don't feel like we have to walk on eggshells and not say the wrong
Yeah, of
thing,
course.
to
I think
trigger
a lot
somebody.
of it is diversity training. If we have diversity training and we understand other cultures, then it helps us to better relate to one another.
It's true.
I think that's good, and I think that, but I think each person, and we're going down this road, is very individual in that we each have to take responsibility. The Bible says to guard our heart.
That's right.
And I think that when somebody says anything insensitive, racism or any other subject, we've got to make a decision. I'm going to guard my heart. Did they really mean what was behind that
Right.
words? I had, a gentleman pull me aside on something that I had said in my heart, in my life. I had definitely not thought through the eyes of, oh, that's a racist statement. Yet that's how he took it. And he pulled me aside and we had the conversation. We were both able to work out, what we
Yeah.
felt or, and I remember asking the question, you know my life. Do you honestly think that I'm racist? Like, do you believe
Right.
that? And he was like, no, I just feel like what you said could have that connotation. I said,
Yeah.
well, let's talk about that. And so it was a really great conversation. And I think we both walked away from it learning something, but then also being responsible to not cross the line of, sensitivity and offense and make the generalizations. But we really
Yeah.
do have
Yeah.
to
We
guard
need
our
to
hearts
talk to
against
one another
Yeah.
because you could if I said something insensitive not knowingly and then I hurt or offended someone and then they left just thinking I was potentially had racism in me and they're offended at this and they go away. Like, please, we invite the conversation, the communication, so we can just like help understand one
And
another.
the diversity, and because we all know this, diversity training, absolutely, education, absolutely, awareness. However, because we do live in a fallen world, there's never going to be a perfect scenario. We could do all the training in the world, and somebody's going to slip up and they're going to say
Exactly,
something.
yeah.
Right.
So I just think that absolutely we need education, we need to take responsibility, we need to guard our hearts, and at the end of the day, leave some room for grace.
Absolutely,
for
agreed.
each of us.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
I mentioned this in the last segment, but in regards to that Starbucks incident, Starbucks, their initiative that they're rolling out, which I think is brilliant, is a combination of what we're saying. It is education. They did close down like 8,000 cafes nationwide.
Yeah.
They spent $12 million on racial bias training for all their employees. But I think what's so valuable that they did is this pilot program where they're paying full-time baristas to do 20 hours of work at their normal cafe as a Starbucks barista, and they're actually paying them 20 hours to be out in the communities doing nonprofit work. And I think that that is so brilliant. Starbucks is saying that, you know, getting around the community is actually what is going to impact the mindsets
Yeah,
more
it's
than
true.
sitting in a class reading, you know.
My question is, what
yeah.
can we do today, though? Because
Yeah.
we all don't have $12 million. We're all not Starbucks.
Yeah.
And so, what can somebody that's sitting in the audience during one of our, during one of our services, and they feel something rise up in them, what can they do, or what should they do? Is the question.
I think we lead people to the root of the pain. I think it's time for us to confront what's behind the words that were spoken. We can't just take anymore the things that are said, but what's behind that? I think if we can help and learn how to confront in love, because not all confrontation is bad confrontation.
That's
We've
right.
seen that. We've heard that on other episodes.
Yeah.
But we have to learn how to confront in love and get to the root of the issue. What's actually behind that statement? And I think we will find in one of the two people talking, there's a hurt, or in both, there's a hurt and a pain that's to be resolved. And we can do that. We can sit with one another, go, where did that come from? Let's ask God to come in and heal that wound. The injustice was done, but now we're going to deal with it, and we're going to walk through healing of the heart to then be able to move forward. So I think the one-on-one conversations and learning to heal from the real issue behind the issue
And we're
will
going to
help
find
bring
out that
us.
we're more alike than we are different.
Exactly.
Isn't that the truth?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like we all know, after this episode, we're all going to hang out. We're all going to go
true.
have,
And I think
I
we
was
can
going to say
just,
drinks, and
we
I'm like,
can-
I don't know if I can
We
say
can
that.
model it well, I think.
Well, I think that there just needs to be open dialogue.
Yeah.
It's got to be open.
Yeah.
And, and fear less. Don't be afraid.
Yeah.
If we want healing, we can't be afraid to have the prickly conversations. No doctor sticks a needle in your arm just to stick it in there. He's sticking it in there to put medicine in there for healing. So some of the prickly parts of what we'll talk about is going to be for our healing.
Yeah.
But if we never get started, then it's just going to continue to the next generation. I don't want to be a part of that generation that dies out in the wilderness. I want to be a part of the generation that brings about the resolution.
And I
That's what I'm
think
talking
that's
about it, Vet. Come on.
I think that's the
Come on.
case. I think it's time to leave a legacy of unity.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think we have an opportunity right now for healing in ourselves, in our nation, and globally. And we've chosen, which is why I love having a different view,
Yeah.
to take responsibility
Yes.
Right.
and talk about and be the healing to a hurting world. Thank you
good.
so much. We've been loving chatting with you. We'll see you next time.
Who can find a virtuous woman? For her worth is far above rubies. She seeks wool and flax, and willingly works with her hands. She is like the merchant ships. She brings her food from afar. She also rises while it is yet night, and provides food for her household. She girds herself with strength, and her lamp does not go out by night. She stretches out her hands to the distaff, and her hand holds the spindle. She extends her hand to the poor. Yes, she reaches out her hands to the needy. She is not afraid of snow for her household, for all her household is clothed with scarlet. She makes tapestry for herself. Strength and honor are her clothing. She shall rejoice in time to come.